Well, hello, it's me, Cheryl, and I know you care about your relationship because you're listening to the Sex, Love, and Elephants podcast and the Is Love Dead series. So here's what I want you to do. Listening is great, my loves, but I want you to take action in May and again in September. I'm going to be teaching an exclusive free 3-hour Zoom workshop for you and your partner. So click below, get on the wait list, and that way you'll be sure to get the Zoom link and the workbook. We're going to work on the 3 keys to passion, my signature teaching. What's going well and what's not going well in your connection and communication, in your fun, the thrill, the dating, and in or out of the bedroom. Make sure you join the waitlist. And if you want to rate yourself right now on how you're doing on those 3 key areas of relationship, take my passion quiz. It takes under 10 minutes and it will show you where you're strong, where you're weak, and what you should start doing about it. Can't wait to work with you. I'll see you soon.
Breaking news. Is long-term love dead? Divorce, affairs, boredom, and no passion. Couples are losing hope.
My husband never romances me anymore. I'm so lonely.
We used to have a great sex life. Now she always says she's too tired.
Experts state 30 to 40% of couples never make love. Only 9% say they are still excited about their partner, and 90% say they have ugly arguments.
I want to fix us, but I don't know how.
I lay in bed at night thinking, is this it?
This just in. Dr. Cheryl Fraser says passion can last a lifetime. It just needs a little help.
Hi, I'm Dr. Cheryl, and it's true that it sure looks like long-term love is dead, but I'm here in this special podcast series to help you bring your dying relationship back to life. Let's get going right now. How does a sex therapist make sure her long-term relationship still has great sex in it? Well, I'm glad you're here because today is a tell-all episode where I'm going to give you maybe a little too much information about how my beloved hubby and I, we've been together 12 years, I'm 60, he's 59, schedule sex and make sure that our sensual life is a priority. Thanks so much for being here as we're in this series of episodes on sex, love, and elephants on the topic, is long-term love dead? And its very close companion topic, is long-term sex dead? So today's episode will make the most impact for you if you've listened to the last 2 episodes. It's okay if you haven't, but you might want to go back and listen to them after you listen to this one or before. 2 episodes ago, I talked about the fact that 30 to 40% of long-term couples aren't making love at all, about some of the reasons why sexual desire wanes so dramatically after a few years, and if we've been together quite a while. And I talked about 2 types of sexual desire: spontaneous desire, where we just easily and naturally feel turned on and want to have sex, and responsive desire, which sounds like a bit of a bummer, because that's the type of desire you need to cultivate. And to simplify what I went into in a lot of detail in that episode, that means you make love even when you don't want to. The last episode, I gave you some how-tos. Well, how do we make love when both of us don't want to? And I taught you the 2 keys to your own erotic engine. The first one is working with what I call your mind of desire to turn yourself on at the mental and thought and fantasy and mental choice level. And the second I call the body of arousal key to your erotic engine, where you turn your body on, maybe by playing with your genitals, maybe by having a hot shower, maybe by doing something that turns your body on. It starts to wake up from its slumber and you start to feel a sexual turn on. And as promised, today I'm going to give you a pretty detailed example what a scheduled sex date might look like, a scheduled sensuality date might look like. And as I've shared, you know not to bother me Sunday at 10 a.m. because that's often our chosen sensual date time, depending on our schedules and depending on our weeks. So quite simply, I'm 61 now, actually. and he's just about 60. We're in good health. But for both of us, as our hormones changed, as we aged, our formerly high level of sex drive, our formerly high spontaneous arousal, our formerly really well functioning bodies with strong, good orgasms both started to change. This is one of the downsides of the upsides of being alive at the time we are, which is we can be really robust and healthy and have fantastic lives in our 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, unlike when a lot of us were kids. When I was a kid, 55 or so years ago, someone in their 60s was very old, and they literally were. They didn't look like my friends and you all look in our 60s. They were old, they were hunched, they were often very frail, very fragile, had a lot of aging issues. We've changed some of the things that help us live longer, healthier lives. But unfortunately, we haven't changed the cave person body. We haven't changed the fact that when a female body stops menstruating, some pretty dramatic cascades in her biochemistry and particularly her hormone profile start to happen that can radically affect the sex drive. Because if you're a cave person and you can't menstruate anymore, you don't need to have sex anymore because it's all about cave babies. And don't get all cocky, no pun intended, guys, because something very similar happens for you. Yes, you can still have children. You can still have viable sperm, hopefully, in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. But the imperative for your kind of old, hinky sperm that might have more genetic defects in it to make babies is not as strong. So here we are. We've got these liberated minds. We've got this longer term health if you're taking decent care of yourself. And we would like to keep feeling as horny in our 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s as we did in our 20s and teens. And it's likely not happening for you. So after a 8 or 9 year run of really robust, beautiful, lovely sexuality, my partner and I ended up in like, we don't feel like it. But I walk the talk. I practice what I preach. I don't just spout this stuff and then be a hypocrite in my own bedroom or out of my own bedroom. So what hubby and I do, because we know we cannot rely on what? We cannot rely on spontaneous desire. We cannot rely on spontaneous turn on to help us have a robust sexual life easily, the way we always did before. We need to work on the mind of desire and the body of arousal, turning on our own erotic engines so we can bring that to our encounter. So we schedule sex. Let me repeat, you must schedule sex. Let me repeat the quote I shared from my friend and colleague Esther Perel: married sex is scheduled sex. Let me share a story. Gosh, about 6 years ago now, I was invited to teach for the wonderful Tony Robbins at his exclusive event in Hawaii, his Sex and Passion program. He teaches it once every 2 years, and there were 300 couples there, very exclusive invitation-only group. And I was one of the sex therapists he brought in to talk about sexuality. And I was about 20 years older, I think, than the other sex therapist. She's not a sex therapist, but she's a sexuality coach. Beautiful work, lovely work, very different work than I teach, but very complementary. Very different lifestyle. She had a young child, again, maybe 18, 20 years younger than me. And we were co-teaching to a subset of these couples each day. We'd get a third of the group each day. So we got a crack at each of the group in a smaller group each day. That part's not that important, but we were both teaching on sexuality and sexual desire and how to have better sex. We didn't know each other very well. We met the day we started teaching together. We connected. She's wonderful. We had a great time. But we didn't know that much about each other. So I was answering a question from the floor from a couple who said, we used to have a great sex life, and these days we really don't feel like making love very often, and it's really discouraging, and it makes us super sad. What can we do to get that kind of lust back? And I said, well, bad news, good news. The bad news is you probably won't often feel that kind of lust, that kind of easiness, what we are calling here and labeling spontaneous desire. But I said one thing my hubby and I do is we schedule sex. And the other sex therapist or the other sex expert said, us too. And you could have heard a pin drop, because here we are, two different women, very sexually liberated, very easy in what we would share about our sexual lives, very sex positive, in relationships with men we found super attractive and we were still in love with. And independently of knowing this about each other, we both said, yeah, we schedule sex. So they're looking at I don't know, I was maybe, how old was I? Like 55. She was probably 40. And they look at these two different women, very different in many, many ways. And they're like, mind blown. They both schedule sex. Don't they have amazing sex lives? And the answer is, Not particularly anymore, because of all the factors we've been covering in this part of the Is Long-Term Love and Sex Dead series. So we then went on to explain what you've learned in the last 2 episodes, and I'm emphasizing now. So fast forward, here we are, 2025, and Sweetie and I, we were actually apart for 3 months. He did a 3-month meditation retreat in the fall of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. So we spent 3 months apart, not in contact. It was really beautiful. I do that same work myself and support him in it. It was great. But we hadn't seen each other in 3 months, and we got back together, and there was so much love and honeymoon feelings and specialness, but there wasn't a ton of sexual desire because of our old bodies or aging bodies. They're lovely bodies. So we said, okay, baby, we're back to scheduling sex Sundays at 10, or some weeks we change it to a different time. So I'm going to tell you about an encounter we had yesterday. And again, as you hear this, some of it will be encouraging, but likely some of it will be discouraging, because we ache for it to be easy the way it used to be. I do too. We ache for our bodies to have that strong sexual passion, as you heard a lot about 2 episodes ago. Snoopy electric toothbrush. If you haven't heard that episode, go listen. The easy, strong orgasms that my body had up until 52 years old when I hit menopause. Listen to that episode. But the gist of it is, we had a great sex life together. I had a very easy, great sex life my whole life. Really strong orgasms, lots of turn on, no problem. Changed a lot after menopause, 52, 53 years old. So we schedule sex. Here's what we did yesterday. We had scheduled it for actually a few days before, and then I came down with a bit of a cold, so we postponed it and picked a new date. So here it is, Sunday morning. We wake up, we're in bed. There's a dog and 2 cats on the bed with us, which is really charming, but doesn't exactly make you want to fuck your brains out. And so we had a plan. We had a methodical plan to create the circumstances for us to have a lovely sexual erotic encounter. First thing we did is we got up, we fed the pets, and we locked the cats away, because otherwise they'd come looking to see what was happening in the bedroom and jump up for a cuddle. We put a little gate, because we have an open plan house. We put a little gate across, so our lovely dog, after she'd had her breakfast and her pee, she'd snooze there instead of coming into the bedroom and saying, oh, I guess it's nap time. I'll jump on the foot of the bed. We then had a quick shower together, in which we touched each other and we kissed and we brushed our teeth. So we had a fresh, minty mouth. These things matter. And then after we'd had a quick rinse, a quick shower, we were all clean and sparkly and felt good, and, snuggled a bit, soaped each other's back in the shower. We then went into the bedroom, where I had made the bed. I'd put out some lovely lube, and I'd put out a game that we had not played in maybe a year or 2. There's many of them. You can get them in a high-end, lovely sexuality shop, or just off Amazon, or wherever you want to purchase the Truth or Dare game. There's several of them. One of the ones we like is like a series of pickup sticks in a jar. The other one's a small metal box, the Truth or Dare card deck. And just as it sounds like, you pull out a card, or you pull up a pixie stick, and on one side it says truth, and on the other side it says dare. And these are erotic truth or dares. So I had a little brainstorm, which I'm really glad I did. We got into bed. We're not feeling at all horny or turned on. We're feeling happy. We're feeling relaxed. The pets are taken care of. We've had this nice shower. We're all minty, fresh, and delicious. And we know we're going to make love, and we're pleased about that. But neither of us feels turned on in our mind of arousal, our mind of desire, or our body of arousal. So I say, hey, let's play a game. He says, sure. So I hand him the box. He pulls out a Truth or Dare stick. And he says, truth or dare. I say, truth. So on his little random stick or card, it said, describe a hot sexual encounter from your past. So he thought about that, and he thought of, on my 50th birthday, we met when I was 49, and we went to this lovely place off Vancouver Island. We had a cabin with a hot tub on the beach with the rolling, crashing waves coming in. And he said, I remember being in the hot tub, and we had a bottle of champagne, a glass of champagne. And we were like passing it back and forth in our mouths. So he would take a sip of the champagne, and he would kiss me and kind of dribble that cold, beautiful bubbles into my mouth while we're in the hot tub. We were touching each other. We were making out. And it was really kind of nice. And we both started to feel a little flutter of turn on, a little flutter of both mind of desire by remembering this beautiful encounter, and a little flutter of body of arousal, a little bit of turn on, a little bit of tingle in the down belows. So then we went on. That was kind of fun. And then I pulled out a card or a pixie stick, and my truth, I said truth or dare, and he said truth. My truth was, you've tied me up and blindfolded me. What will you do to me now? And so he started to describe what he would do to me. And I said, tell me more. And then I said, and then what would you do? And we got into some really erotic talk. And then I said, show me. And then he started to follow with his speech of where he was kissing me, what he was doing with his tongue, and that I was moaning and I was writhing. And he started to participate in those activities with me. And we both started to feel pretty turned on. He got a really good erection. I'm nice and wet and happy. We've got some gorgeous lube there. And we continued on to have a really lovely sexual encounter. But because we're older, we're not very old, and because the bodies change, we needed to work with some things that happened in our bodies. And I'm going to be very explicit here. I have his permission to share this because it's going to be really helpful for all of you asking. So he was close to orgasm. We started making love. We started having vaginal intercourse. It was really fun, and it was really nice and hard. We were having a great time. And then he felt a slight change in his erection, and he did what so many of us, male or female, gay, straight, LGBTQ, whatever genitalia you're rocking, he got in his own head about it. And he thought, oh, I'm getting a little bit soft. And then it felt like the erection might not be quite strong enough to keep thrusting at that time. I said, babe, don't get in your head. No problem. Pull out. And then we kept kissing. We kept caressing. I had my hand on him. He had his hand on me. He brought me close to orgasm. I had my hand on him. And then I said, I want to watch you play with yourself. I said, I'm going to play with myself. So we lay next to each other, kissing and watching each other. And I brought myself to a lovely, strong orgasm, which is a super turn on for him. And he got very close. He said, put your mouth on me. And he had a beautiful, strong orgasm. Now, that's a very explicit and personal description of an explicit and personal encounter. But I wanted to share it to give you an idea of how you can renovate your sex life, how you can make the sensuality side of your passion triangle important again, how you can do what it takes, what sex therapists do, what the other sex expert did, what Esther Perel and Rosemary Besson and all the other fantastic educators, researchers, sex therapists in the world say we must do if we want to have an alive and beautiful and sexual and satisfying and joyful sensual life together. We need to plan it. We need to do it when we don't feel like it. We need to create circumstances to make it fun. A lot of the time when we have a sensual encounter date, we'll have a shower, we'll play around in the shower, we'll go make love, and it's really lovely. It is what it is. Sometimes the bodies work great. Sometimes they don't cooperate quite as well, but we try to keep our head in a good place. That the simple act of being naked together in the shower or in the bed is profound. It's a different way, literally, of being with anyone else in your world. If we're choosing monogamy, if we don't live in a nudist colony, we're generally not naked around other people. We're generally not embracing people when we're both naked. We're generally not touching people's naked skin in more private or vulnerable or sexual areas. So when we're not doing that, when we're letting our sex life die, when we're non-sexual, when we're the 30 to 40% of you and us who are in a low sex or sexless relationship, we're avoiding and missing out on and not cultivating a very powerful, profound part of being alive. The spiritual and emotional connection we can feel, any of us, when we are naked together is rare. When nude skin touches nude skin, the parasympathetic nervous system, that's the calm down system, the not fight or flight system is activated. You can feel calm, oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone, the love hormone, the connection safety hormone can be released. We can have a cortisol and adrenaline reduction. Our blood pressure drops. Our heart rate slows down. We feel safe, connected, and loving. Spiritually, however you define that, When you've made love with your partner, someone you love, whether or not you've each had orgasms, even not so much what the quality, so to speak, of that encounter is, whether the bodies cooperate or not, whether the orgasm's a 10 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10, it's we've done this special, sacred, amazing thing together. We've made it a priority. We've focused on it. We've made it matter. We've made our sex life matter. We've scheduled a sensual date. Now, when I teach this, I get a mixture of responses, as anyone who teaches this will. And a lot of it is, but I don't want it to be that hard. No pun intended. I don't want it to be that difficult to have a great sensual encounter or even a medium sensual encounter. I long for the spontaneous desire we used to have. I long for where I felt like the most attractive person in the world because my partner couldn't wait to tear my panties or my boxers off. I miss it. And oh, my loves, absolutely honor that you miss when it was easier. Absolutely honor that you miss when sex felt easy. Absolutely honor that you miss when you were turned on more easily, when you had more time, when each other getting naked with each other was a big priority. It's a beautiful part of your relationship. It was a terrific part of the journey of your relationship to now. But I'm a realist, my loves, and we need to work with where you're at now. How is your sexual life now? And what are you willing to do about it? What I'm willing to do is to share in a public forum the details of an erotic and sexual encounter I had with the person I love yesterday. I don't do that to show off, for goodness sakes. I don't do that to anything else other than to educate and inspire. I chose to share something vulnerable and profound with you so that you can get a sense of what it might look like to choose to make your relationship a priority. Because the easy turn on of novelty is pretty rare when you've been together a while. Novelty is a great turn on. When something's new, you go to a new restaurant. It's more fun than the one you've gone to every other time. You go do something exciting. There's a lot of research to show that when you put yourself in an exciting environment with your partner, maybe you go snowmobiling like we did a couple years ago for the first time. It was so fun. When you do something exciting or different or new with your long-term partner, you find them more attractive. So here's the issue, of course, with longer-term relationships when we get naked. It's not new. Your body's not new to me. The positions we tend to favor aren't new to me. The routine we tend to utilize in our sexual encounters is not new to me. And we can very easily, to my broken hearts announcement, we can very easily get lazy, boring, and complacent in bed. Are you a lazy lover? Are you bringing excitement and interest to your sexual encounter? Are you, ouch, a selfish lover? Are you seeking to get and far less interested in what you give? Are you seeking to feel good and kind of forgetting that you can bring a presence of mind and heart to turn on your partner's two keys to their erotic engine? Are you lazy in bed? Are you selfish in bed? Are you, both of you, so hurt by the past and the arguments and the longing and the loneliness in your sexual lives together that you are very realistically scared to move forward and try the things I'm teaching here? I hear you. I honor you, but please don't give up. And if you want deeper help, please get on the wait list for the Become Passion 12-week program I'm teaching for the last time live in October 2025. It's a 12-week program. And I've had over 750 couples go through that program. And go to the testimonial page if you want to see real couples like you who've gone from sexless to sexual. The last third of the program, we focus in much more detail on the sensuality side of the passion triangle, which is what I've been teaching in this part of our series. Currently, the sub-series is long-term sex dead. Well, it's dying. It's not a happy, robust thing. And I'm giving you some steps, some knowledge, and some exercises and some challenges to help you move from sexless towards sensual, or from sexual but boring to sexual and more spicy, more fun, more fulfilling. It takes work. Damn it anyway. Don't shoot the messenger, but I'm bringing you some truth bombs. It takes work and effort for almost all longer-term couple to have a robust and joyful and beautiful sexual life. I recently taught a variation on what I've just taught you right now in Mexico a month or two ago now, by the time you hear this. And I was at an invited exclusive event, this time for Jack Canfield of Chicken Soup for the Soul and a number of other transformational leaders. And I taught this material. I've also been on Jack's own podcast. Look that up. Look up the Jack Canfield podcast. Go to October 2025, and I was his guest. October 2024, a few months ago, I was his guest. And Jack shares on that podcast, and he shared on stage in the event I just taught, so I have permission to share it here. He is 80. His wife is in her 70s, and his sex drive in his 80s just kind of went away. Also some erection issues. And they started scheduling a sensual encounter on Saturday afternoons. And he says 90% of the time his beloved will have an orgasm, and he won't always, but he will still have pleasure and fun, and they connect, and it's really enhanced their sexual and romantic life together. This shit works. Do we want to have to schedule something that used to be easier? No, we don't. Do we want to have to make some effort or some creativity the way my sweetheart and I did yesterday to kind of get the mind of desire key to the erotic engine woken up, the body of arousal key to the erotic engine open up? No, we don't want to do that. But you know what I really don't want any of you to do? To give up, to have non-existent or crappy sex, to spend our rest of our lives, decades, I hope, mourning for what we've lost instead of co-creating something erotic and fun and beautiful now. So my loves, schedule sex. Make it a priority. Start your erotic encounter when really you'd almost rather do anything else. Make waffles, walk the dog, watch a show, get your taxes done because you're not in the mood. You're learning. I'm coaching you to put yourself in the mood using one of those two keys to the erotic engine the way we did yesterday. So I so love this episode. I so love this series. We got a lot more to come with me, with some more special guests over the next couple of months as we continue to explore, is long-term love dead? Is long-term sex dead? No, it's not, my babies, but we need to do something about it to re-enliven the sexuality, the intimacy, the thrill, the fun, the delight, and the falling in love in our longer-term relationship. And that's what you're here for, and that's what I'm here for. Please send me your feedback, your thoughts, your questions to hello@drcherylfraser.com, and we will keep the party going. And that brings us to this episode's Love Bite. Long-term love sex is scheduled sex. You might say scheduling sex isn't romantic, Cheryl. And I say, it's not romantic, never having sex. Make your sexual life a hobby. Set a date and learn to work with responsive desire, the two keys to your erotic engine, and to become a better lover, a better partner, and a better couple together. Until next time, I remain Dr. Cheryl Fraser.